This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 562 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Total Saddle Fit, and Bates Saddles. On today's show, we have friend of the show, Jec Ballou, on to talk about the importance of your horse's postural stability. And then Felicitas von Neumann-Cosel talks about the importance of getting back to basics. Another trainer friend of ours, Patty Mayer, joins us for a great trainer tip.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil. How are ya?
I'm doing quite well today, Reese. It was sunny and a little bit of snow today.
We've had snow too. I'm not going to lie.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Ooh, it's been a little chilly. I mean, it's been frosty every morning. The horses are in the heavy weights. We had beautiful weather for the first 2.5 weeks we were here. So I can't really complain. I can't complain about weather since I was in Florida all winter, but and then the bottom fell out and it was rough. That's
April, it's hard to know what you're going to
get. One morning, Travis got up, he let Annie out and he said, "It's snowing." And I literally just put the covers back over my head. I was like, I can't do it. I can't. So I get it. So Phil, what are you up to? How are you doing in quarantine?
I'm doing fine. I was just telling you before we, come on air that I have started early on the dressage rider training program.
Yeah, so
just
tell people about it.
Check it out. It's got some, done the first 3 workouts because I have the time, right?
You can be extra fit when we start. So Phil, tell everybody about that. Like, what are you talking about if you're new to the show or didn't listen last week?
Yeah, so last week we had Nicola Smith on. She is from New Zealand. She has a online fitness program that's for dressage riders, and I think it would help for, all riders and people who don't even ride. It's she has been doing a fitness program for everyone before, and then she decided to start a rider-specific one. We had her on the show. We had a great interview, a nice chat, and then actually we decided to sort of team up with dressage rider training, and we're going to encourage all of our listeners to start the program. I think it's sometime if you sign up now, you're going to start the program sometime around. Was it April 26th?
Something 27th? Like that. Yep, that's right.
26th
or 27th. Yep.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do each week as it comes. You have 3 workouts to do each week for 12 weeks. So we encourage people to go check it out. The website is www.dressageridertraining.com/DRS. So.
Yeah, so we can all sign up together, I think.
And we're going to get fit together.
Get fit together. Again, we talk to people all over the world. So, even on this call, our producer's in England, Philip's in Canada, I'm in the U.S. in Kentucky. So, everybody has varying levels of what's happening. And, it's hard to do a blanket, but we really wanted to have the community. I don't know about anybody else, but this is sort of my Zoom cocktail hour. I've been looking forward to it all day. I got to talk to Philip a little bit earlier in the day. For me, it's, again, everybody's struggle is different. I'm actually on my farm by myself, which is really hard. As you all probably know, I'm very much a people person and love the interaction with my students. But my barn is also my home. My apartment's actually sort of in the barn. So we've had to really, really lock the barn down. And so literally I am here by myself all day. It is hard. I'm doing all the work and back to my roots, which is good. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is hard. It's different challenges. And so I'm always happy to have a little chat, or I definitely have had some Zoom chats with some friends in the evening. And I've enjoyed the time with my husband. My husband also travels a lot. He's not in horses. And so he travels a lot. And so actually we've both been home, and I've gotten to cook and do some things that I really like as well. But it's hard. It's hard doing all the cooking and the cleaning and the horses. And so I was really looking forward to today, and definitely have the wine flowing on my end, Phil. I don't know about you. I'm like, it's my Zoom chat of the day.
Not yet, but it's usually something that starts to happen about halfway through our show. So
now you guys know the secrets of the Dressage Radio Show. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and for everybody, the other thing that's going on with us is we do a book club this month. So we try and do it monthly or bi-monthly. The book that we've got going on right now, that Reese and I have both received, is called Freestyle, the ultimate guide to riding, training, and competing to music. That's cool. We encourage everybody to go to www.horseandriderbooks.com where they can pick up this new book. It's written by Jec Ballou. It's kind of cool. Kind of checking it out. It's got lots of pictures, which I love. A book with diagrams and some beautiful photos. And so we're going to give that out to an auditor, hopefully soon.
Yes. And how do you become an auditor, Phil? How do you do that? Because this is also a really cool community. If you're new to the show or looking for communities online, what is an auditor, Phil?
Okay, well, the auditor program is a way in which our listeners can support us, support the show, support the Horse Radio Network. So you just need to go to horseradionetwork.com. Click on the link somewhere on that page for the auditor program, and I think it's $3 a month, at minimum $3 a month, to become an auditor, and then you get an invite to the special exclusive Facebook page for auditors, and that way we connect with our listeners as well. We get questions, and we give out our book of the month for the Book of the Month Club to an auditor, and then they agree to come on the show, and we talk about the book for for half an hour or whatever. We just review each of the books that we have, and again, it's a great way to connect to our listeners. It's a great way to connect. I'm an avid reader, and so is Reese. So we love getting these books. We love expanding our knowledge. So this one is all about freestyles. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's true. Phil, have you done some freestyles in your career?
A few lower level, maybe not even a few. I've done an I1 freestyle because that's sort of the program that you do when you show that small tour. Yeah. Maybe a third level one way back, possibly second. So not a lot. Yeah. So I'm definitely not an expert in freestyle. Usually I just hire somebody to help me out with that because I'm not musically inclined or anything, So that's true. But I think with a lot of new technologies and the way that we can use programs, use a computer to help with the editing of music and help us find music, I think absolutely it's easier to put together your own freestyle. So hopefully after reading this book, I'm going to be ready to put one together and rock it whenever we get back to show season.
And that's kind of why we chose this book, right? Because this is a time, freestyles actually take quite a bit of time and
a lot of planning.
And right now, great time for time and planning. So that's why we chose this book, because we're just kind of getting those juices flowing, that we really want you guys to, have a community, have some things to do. And if you've thought about a freestyle, this is a really good time to do it because they really take a lot of time. Even if you hire someone to help you, they take a lot of time. So we're hoping this kind of will motivate you and give you something cool to look forward to. So that's great. Phil, I will also real quick in our chat, because I'm here at the farm pretty much by myself. I mean, my husband's working too, and we're both working really long hours. So, we come in, we have dinner. Basically, I shower, I do night check, and then I go to bed. Like, I'm not very exciting right now. But one of the things that I've started doing, which I didn't do before, was I've started listening to podcasts, which has been really fun because obviously we do a podcast. But sort of once we finish, it goes to the editors and typically, Phil and I start thinking about the next episode. So it's been really fun to listen to some podcasts, and I've loved, the podcasts that have created even more of a community with the podcast. I've really enjoyed that. So that's one of the things I think that we've looked forward to with our podcast here. We're doing a little bit longer show. We're trying to give you guys some ideas. So feel free to reach out. Phil and I love listener feedback. And we've got actually a listener feedback trainer tip. So keep it coming. We love it. We will try. We can pretty not get everybody on this show, but we can get a lot of really good people right now because we're all stuck inside. So keep it coming. So again, my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com and Philip is philip@horseradionetwork.com. Feel free to reach out to us, and we hope you guys are enjoying all our efforts to kind of create a community and keep our community going. Well, Phil, we're going to come back. We're going to have a quick commercial break from Bates Saddles. We appreciate all their kind words in sponsoring our show, and we're going to come back with a great show.
Bates Saddles offer highly specialized saddles for every discipline, engineered to bring out the best in you and your horse. Underneath the finest European leather, you will feel the power of innovation. For you, the rider, enjoy instantaneous comfort, optimal balance, and seamless contact with your horse, leaving you free to concentrate on your aids. For your horse, the Care Cushion System and Easy Change Fit solution ensure the absolute comfort and your peace of mind. Revolutionize your riding experience and fulfill your true potential by riding in a Bates saddle. See your local retailer for a test ride or visit batessaddles.com to find out more. That's batessaddles.com.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have back on the show and my favorite author, Jec Ballou. She's the author of 101 Dressage Exercises, Equine Fitness. She has tons of books that I love and use every day. Jec, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to talk with you both again. Thanks for having me on.
And well, we're really excited. And as we know, this is a really challenging time, and your books are fantastic. You have books for riding, you have books for groundwork, but you also have a new, really fantastic online program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So how it came about was about this time every year or earlier. I get a lot of emails from people that are coming out of winter hibernation, and they want to know what sorts of gradual conditioning things to start doing with their horses. And I decided to really narrow it down and simplify it and put it in an online program. And what it does is guides people day by day through 4 weeks of basically postural conditioning, because that's what you would want to emphasize with your horse first before you get into the cardio phase. And so I launched the program in early February, and the feedback has been really great. People are enjoying it. It's kind of like having a coach, in your pocket.
So can you tell us a little bit about how does it start? How do you get the program? Kind of give us the basics.
Yeah, so people can access it through my website, which is jecballou.com. And how it works, and there's a free preview there. People can do the first week for free to try it out. And how it works is there's a little video lesson, which is short. It's like 2 to 3 minutes, that kind of introduces the exercises that you're going to do. And then it gives you each week, each of the 4 weeks, you get a different, I call it a walk workout, but it's 25 minutes of work that's all at the walk for your horse. And it's riding, or you can modify it to ground driving or online if your horse is in a rehab situation. And it kind of tells you how to fill that 25 minutes, so go do these, patterns for this long, and then go do these patterns. So it kind of takes you through that. And then each week you get 2 different, what I call calisthenic exercises to emphasize. So that might be anything from like a wither rocking bodywork technique or walking over ground poles set up in a specific way, all geared towards accessing the horse's postural muscles, which is what the whole course is about. And then each week you get a new batch of exercises and an explanation on why you're doing the things you're doing. And there's a discussion board. If people have questions, they can post, and I jump on there and answer them. And it's been just really rewarding to see people getting so much benefit out of this simple, the consistency of the simple little things that they can do with their horses.
So, Jec, maybe you can get into a little bit about, sort of your meaning and some definitions about postural muscles and what you mean by calisthenics, and, as best you can.
Yeah, for sure. And what I mean by postural muscles are those deep stabilizing muscles, especially in the back. And the reason I'm such a fan of, when I say calisthenics, what I mean is like slow moving, fine motor control exercises, which could be something, for example, turn on the forehand, something where you're not moving at speed and you're asking the horse to take its joints and the body through a full range of motion. And I believe through all the studies I've done through physical therapy that allows you to access these little tiny stabilizing muscles in the spine. The reason is because you haven't allowed the big longissimus muscle to switch on and take over, which it kind of wants to do, especially if the deep back muscles have become deactivated through either total lack of fitness or, a stressful situation or an injury. And so when I use the terminology calisthenics or give people a calisthenic program to do with their horse, and a lot of groundwork kind of naturally is calisthenics if you think about it. But there's also a ton that you can do with the horse under saddle at slow speeds and a really relaxed kind of body frame that targets these postural muscles by not allowing the big fleshy muscles to take over, like the glutes, the top line. We don't want those taking over the work of the stabilizing muscles. So it's probably a longer description than you wanted, but that's what I mean.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great.
And Jec, is there a way, so, a lot of people maybe aren't able to ride, maybe they are able to do some groundwork exercises. Give us some kind of insight or some things that we can work on with our horses if we aren't able to ride, but we are able to see them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of simple things that I do with a single ground pole on the ground. And there's one in my book that's really popular, which is having the horse straddle the pole with his legs on either side of it. And people have had all kinds of results with that exercise. It's a really cool one. But then in addition to that, what I like to do with horses, especially for horses that get really tight in their shoulders, which is most performance horses, and actually most horses that just live in a stall because they're just not getting the movement that would help sort of, keep things lubricated, so to speak. What I do is put a single pole on the ground and then take the horse and walk his front feet across the pole and then have him come back across the pole. So you're walking back and forth across the pole, but with just the front end. And after you do that a couple of times, the horse will really start licking and chewing and relaxing. And, as he's activating the deep muscles under the scapula, and especially when he has to come back across the pole, he's having to pull his scapula back, which aside from jumpers is not a motion that a lot of performance horses make. They don't get that full range of motion where the scapula slides all the way back. But if you can get that, then you have like awesome range of motion and shoulder in, for example, or half pass. So that's a really cool one that targets those deep, tiny muscles close to the core.
Maybe, Jec, you can talk to us. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to ask you to delve a little bit deeper into, what are the benefits of working the postural muscles to maybe specifically dressage, and how that all fits together with our training plan, which basically after, get the fitness up, and then, then we are actually wanting to activate the glutes and the top line muscles. And so how does that build in, one into the other? And the benefits of perfect question. And the way it facilitates the larger goal of creating that big, powerful movement from the locomotion muscles is
horses, I mean, just like us, they want stability in their posture. And many of them lacks, I mean, you know, a young horse is a perfect example. They haven't yet developed stability. So people will say, oh, my horse is really wiggly or wobbly. You know, we hear those terms. Or a horse that's chronically hollow and travels around like a giraffe with his head up in the air. A lot of times they're trying to find stability in the spine, because what we know now is for the horse to stabilize his spine, if he can move the vertebral joints closer together, and it stabilizes them, right? If the muscles haven't been activated enough, the deep stabilizing muscles. And so they'll raise their head to try to stabilize things. But if we can teach the horse to, and help him develop the deep core muscles, so the deep abdominal muscles, those little muscles alongside the spinal joints, then the locomotion muscles are freed up to do their job, which is movement, big, powerful, strong movement. And so you don't get the big fleshy muscles trying to take over the job of stabilizing the spine and moving, which they're not designed to do because they're not highly innervated, those big fleshy muscles. So I describe it like an orchestra when everybody's playing the right role. You know, the postural muscles are doing the job of keeping the spine stable. And then the big muscles are moving it around. And then you've got this perfect, graceful, light movement.
Wow. I don't know about anyone else, but I also am sitting up a little straighter while listening to this because I'm like,
you're like, let me fire up those postural muscles.
Yeah, I don't think really postural muscles. I love it. I love it.
And the thing is, like, a lot of this can sound really technical, but that's why I started the online courses. It doesn't have to be, and there's nothing really complicated about it. It's the same with people. If you go to a physical therapist, they don't give you confusing things to do. They're usually absurdly simple exercises. Like if you've got a torn rotator cuff, for example, they give you these really simple exercises, but they're highly effective because you're training the nervous system, you're wiring new neural pathways, or in some cases, just keeping them activated. And so that was a motivation for me to start the online course, is just to give people like simple 5-minute little things they can do with their horse when they go to the barn that's going to keep all those stabilizing muscles tuned up. So when we do all get to this wonderful time where we have unrestricted time with our horses again, and we're in our full training mode, then you can really hit the cardio conditioning and the big gymnastic conditioning because the body's prepared for it, you know?
I love it. I think that's the big thing, right? Is right now it's a great time to prepare, and it's a great time to read and educate, and so that you are, and we all, this is not speaking for a friend, this is me too, we're ready to go when sort of things open up, and that's hard because we don't know. But Jec, you also have fantastic books that I love. So how can our listeners find you online, find the books, etc.?
They can just go to my website, which is jecballou.com. And I'm also happy to answer any questions people have if they want to shoot me an email through the website.
Awesome. And then your books, we can find them on horseandriderbooks.com?
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Well, Jec, thanks so much. As always, we love your programs and we love your material, and we look forward to having you on another time.
Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
Well, we're going to have a quick break from Kentucky Performance Products. And as always, we can't thank our sponsors enough. If you have questions, contact Karen. She's a contributor on the show. She'd love to talk to you about your horse and what's going on. While you have some time, she's in the office and would love to talk with you. So after this commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, we're going to come back with Felicitas von Neumann-Cosel.
Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that supports healthy muscle and nerve function by limiting cellular damage. Green grass is the best source of vitamin E for horses, but most horses don't spend enough time grazing to meet their needs. Hay, grain, and winter pasture provide little to no natural vitamin E. To ensure your horse's vitamin E requirements are met, choose Elevate. Elevate contains a readily available source of natural vitamin E. Elevate is cost-effective and easy to feed. To learn more about Elevate, visit the Kentucky Performance Products website at kppusa.com.
Well, this evening, we are very, very privileged to have Felicitas von Neumann-Cosel. She is an international rider and trainer, and we're so happy to have you, Felicitas, during this time of quarantine. You're so busy, and this is one of the bonuses we get to get a hold of you this evening. How are you, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited to be with you guys this evening, and like you said, the benefit or the silver lining in this situation is actually not having to travel as many weekends. Often I travel on a Thursday night already to go where I need to go, and being able to be home and talk to you guys is really a little, benefit that I can have. And, we were going to talk a little bit about today in this very current situation that is so different than anything anybody has experienced. What can we do as professionals? What can we do as amateurs? We all love our horses. And so I wanted to share a little bit the sentiment that I've gotten from a lot of other trainers and friends that have talked about that for them, the silver lining has been that they did not feel the pressure of having to produce a horse that has to go to the first horse show whenever that is in your calendar. Or a young man in Germany who trains a lot of the stallions, all of a sudden he does not have to take him to the stallion shows, and to take a deep breath and just say, I can be home and I can focus on training, sometimes really gives us the ability and time to get back to the basics and maybe think of the same old problem from a different direction.
That's a really interesting topic because, as people were gearing up in Florida, it was an Olympic year, so there was a ton of pressure on those team riders to be producing a really good horse. And now that they've delayed the Olympics, I think a lot of people are looking forward to the chance to go back to training because they had a few shows. Maybe it went really great, maybe it didn't, and now everybody's just on the same playing field to say, okay, what was working, what was wrong? I want to make it better for next year. That's an entire year, so the horses could have a bit of a rest, and then we can just gear up again.
Yeah, and you certainly feel bad for the people who, for example, have qualified for the World Cup, understandably, and also who have qualified for the Olympics, but then the qualifying time wasn't even over yet completely. So it all is just a very unusual situation. And I am also thinking about, my clients that are sitting at home right now that cannot come and see their horses, and a lot of the people that I see during clinic times that I can't see right now. And I'm trying to encourage them to really think about the horses, maybe sometimes from a different angle. And it often starts with understanding who your horse is. We talk often about going to the basics, and we talk about the training scale, which is very important when you think about training dressage and understanding dressage. But when you think about the whole idea of riding, it is so much more complex because we're first dealing with an animal. The animal has a personality. One person can't get the horse to go forward. You can't get it inspired. The next one is running away. The next one is spooking. I think we have to also sometimes really first focus on what do we need to do to help the horse to be in a situation that he can actually learn and communicate with me so that his brain is in the right place. So I find that how few people even understand the horses on the ground and understand, or don't understand what actually makes them tick. So maybe this is a good time to look into some natural horsemanship videos, or there are some good books that talk about horse language. I think that sometimes that is forgotten. And then I encourage them to maybe think about the horse, how do they have to use themselves to do the job of dressage? And there's some great articles, for example, about the horse's sling by Dr. Hilary Clayton, and just understanding how does it put together? Understanding where the bones is. It's interesting for me how many people don't even really know where the horse's spine is in the neck. And I think it would be great for people to investigate to see where the pieces of the horse are and how would they have to come together that this whole locomotion can happen. And then, of course, I always encourage them also to think about the biomechanics of the rider. My cousin, Susanne von Dietze, has written some really good books about the rider's anatomy and how things are put together and how does it work for us to go with the movement. And for my personal clients, I have some advice because we always play when we're at the farm that we do some mimicking riding on the ground. I have people walk and trot and canter and carry their hands and we have some exercises like that, which they can do at home. And then I think they need to look into the theory of dressage. And again, thinking about the horse, trying to figure out, is it really, do I have a connection yet? Do I have rhythm and tempo? And how is my body possibly related to that subject? How do I feel if my horse has rhythm and tempo? And then maybe they can find the correlation, for example, that their seat bones are very important for that subject so that they can feel the horse's rhythm and that they can feel the tempo and how it influences the quality of the gait. If the horse is too fast, it can be sometimes too flat. Those are just examples. And I think this is a good time for people to take a step back and maybe thinking of the big picture again and then coming more motivated back to the barn.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
The last thing that I've also really encouraged them has been to not forget about visualization. Mm-hmm. And I get a nice email. I'm in an email flow from London Gray, who sends some great tips to her kids. And I really liked the one that she wrote about visualization, and I forwarded that to my clients as well. And I encouraged them really to mentally ride their horse. And then one of my clients said, well, I don't even remember. And so then I just reminded her of her last lesson and the exercises we did. And then she wrote me back an email and basically recounted the whole lesson that she wrote in her head, which was excellent. And then I told her, because she's sometimes not comfortable with her horse, I said, so now imagine you're doing this in the outdoor arena where you're a little scared. And so maybe we can attack some of our demons in that way as well. So it's not quite as scary because we're only doing it in our head, but we got to do it anyway.
Right.
So,
and there's a lot of research to say that the visualization is really important.
For
it works.
For sure. It works.
Absolutely.
For sure, it works.
And I think these are all such important things. And I think just the idea of just stepping back, and maybe you're not able to ride, but you can spend a little time with your horse every day. I think that's so important. And I get it, because I normally have helpers and wonderful young women who help me in the barn. And right now they're not here. And so I'm doing it. And I can tell you, there's a lot to be said about doing all the feeding and all the stalls. And I get to spend time with my horses, which I don't normally do. And there is something really lovely and beautiful about that. And, I'm not really in a hurry. Yeah. A lot of times, it's a little bit different. We've got lots of lessons and lots of things going on. And I don't. So,
I love hearing you say that, because if I miss one thing, it is that I don't have the time to do the grooming anymore or those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But what we were able to do this year, we came up with a number of horses that was reduced by quite a bit, but we still could make the business work, so that I could really have more time with each horse. And, I personally play with the shoulder pads with my horses all the time. And
Wendy Murdoch, she's a Wendy Murdoch, sorry, is a big, she's on our show a lot. And Wendy, there's a surefoot.com. Those are great pads and lots of content with Wendy as well.
Yeah. And I'll actually have a Zoom conference with her next week. And it really, it allows me to observe the horses, and I can take the time. I'm not a body worker, but I put my hands on the horses and know to do some things that I find extremely helpful, and to just observe what are they doing. The horses don't lie. You can always see in all of what they do where their weaknesses are and where their strengths are. And having that moment to take a breath and just say, I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to watch it, and I can do that. That is just, for me, it's a gift, because still, I don't know how much you get paid or not paid. It's a passion that I live. And when there's too much pressure, then it makes it so much harder.
Yeah. And I think right now, all of us, we don't know when competitions are going to start again, or if they're going to be this year. And I think I've heard a lot of anxiety about that. And I think just taking the anxiety away and just saying, okay, we're just going to spend time with the horse, just take a deep breath, look at the silver lining of all this, and don't be so focused on the competition.
Exactly. Like we said, I think that some really improvement could come from that, because you can go back and you can redo things. And so there is that opportunity to do that. And so I think maybe that is a benefit. And, and another thing, of course, for a lot of us professionals, there's, of course, that concern that you can't fly to the places where you usually teach on the weekends. And so I have not been able to be in touch with my students as much as I would like to. But I could probably figure out the technology of teaching virtually, but I have this problem that I need to put my hands on the horse and on the rider. And that makes it for me a lot more difficult. But I started to do something with a couple of my students, that I had them send me a video, and I did a video analysis. But then with that video analysis, I expected them to send me an email, a detailed email of what do they feel? What does a horse feel like? What is their goal? What are they doing to improve self-carriage? So I really challenged them a little bit with their knowledge and also with their thought process. What are you guys, what are you doing? And so with the video analysis, obviously, I gave some suggestions. And what I want is, I said, okay, I want weekly feedback, either with a video or with an email. And I want a conversation. I want to know what you feel. Was this helpful? Was this not helpful? Is this clear or is this not clear? And it's been fun, because I've been getting some really good feedback. So
I think it's
you're turning all of your students thinking riders as well, right?
My whole point is that I feel like we need to be more mindful. You can't just sit in a lesson and be told to do a half pass and then a flying change. And if it doesn't work, you go a little bit more forward, or you come back a little more. There has to be more depth. And I miss that too often. And I really do. I love to educate in that way. I really like to have people feel much more, because often they're really not aware what they're telling their horses, because their seat tells the horse to go to the right, their hands tell the horse to go to the left, and, the horse ends up somewhere in the middle going like, well, who do I trust? So there are a lot of conflicts going on without ever being recognized. Or, you're tapping the horse for the piaffe, but you don't realize that you have 50 pounds in your hands and you actually have the parking brake on. And then you're surprised that the horse is afraid of the whip, because where's it going to go with it? So there are just too many things that with a more mindful approach could be showing the horse what you really want them to do.
No,
it's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, I just love this idea, and this is also, lean on your coach a little bit. I think all of us we're all three professional coaches, and I miss my students. I miss my job. I want to do my job. I'm not able to do my job right now. We miss it. We miss you guys. So, I think the video analysis, I've also done the same. Very similar, setting goals, being more mindful. And there's a lot to be said about that. I think it's been nice for my students. It's nice for me because again, we do this job, maybe not always because of the money. We do it because we really love doing what we do.
The honest to God truth, yes, we all have to live. That's the bottom line.
Right.
And at some point, maybe we'll have to retire, but hopefully we can teach forever.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I feel like, I feel such sometimes an urgency to pass along all the experiences I've made. And I've often said that I step into a lesson and I watch the horse and the rider and the problem, and I'm going like, I could give you 10 lessons right now. Which one is the one I'm going to choose?
Right.
Right. So, and if I have more consistency with the person, then I realize, this first lesson did this, but maybe not that. Then I can give you feedback and give you the next lesson, or the next idea or visual or so.
Yeah, it's definitely a great way to help. And again, it's a good way in a lot of ways that you can get some more theory in that maybe you wouldn't do when you're in the arena or it's an interesting way, but I agree. I think it's a great way to lean on your coach. It's nice for routine for all of us. It's a lot of times people see your coach once a week or every day or whatever. It's part of your day. And so that consistency is nice as well.
And it is interesting to get feedback because I've been surprised once I really started asking people what they feel. Sometimes it was amazing and sometimes it was surprising. And so it is important to know what your student says. And I grew up in a time where you didn't dare to ask a question. That's just not right.
Yes.
Feedback is not necessary at all. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Please don't say anything.
Don't talk. No, well, Felicitas, thank you so much for coming on and bringing some light to the situation. And again, I think we're all in the same boat, but there are things you can do. And I really appreciate also for myself listening to the interview. So if our listeners have any more questions or want to find you online, how do they do that?
Well, I think at this point, I hate to admit it, but the best place is probably Facebook. You could Facebook message me. We're just in the works of making a new website for First Choice Farm, so I don't have that up at the moment. But on Facebook, I have a professional and a personal page, and I get all my messages there. So that's probably the most reliable one.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, and stay well, and thank you for all your advice this evening.
Okay, we're rolling again, and this is continuing on the pickup from KPP. In 3, 2, 1.
Well, Phil, as always, Total Saddle Fit, we can't thank them enough for being another sponsor of the show. They're a longtime sponsor. So as always, go to their website, take a look at www.totalsaddlefit.com. Justin there can answer any saddle fit questions. If you have some saddle fit issues going on right now, this is a great time to get a hold of Justin. And if you aren't able to ride, you can at least check your saddle fit. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, well, we, I think we've picked up a few new listeners just because everybody's basically kind of bored and looking for tips and things to do during the isolation period. So, if you guys are enjoying the content, the best way to support us is actually through our sponsors. And Total Saddle Fit has been a long-time sponsor. They have great products that Reese and I ride with, and the girths and the stirrup leathers and the saddle. And they Justin's also been really helpful with helping us with our saddle fit issues. So. Like Reese said, check them out at www.totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, tonight for our Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, I am so thrilled to have one of my dear friends, Patty Mayer of Bailiwick House in California. Patty, welcome to the show. Hi, welcome back.
Thanks.
Well, it is Thursday evening, and this is actually kind of a sad week for all of us because we were all right now supposed to be in Las Vegas together for the World Cup. I was really looking forward to seeing you.
Yes, me too. We were supposed to be partying and watching amazing, amazing horses jump and do dressage and do fun things and maybe partying. So, and it's super sad to be missing that.
I know.
I think all of us are grieving the life that we had and that we had planned, and we have to find a way to move forward.
Yeah, so we're moving forward. This is basically, we've been talking about having a Zoom cocktail party, and this is basically the dressage trainer version of a Zoom cocktail party for the week. So we're so glad we met, and we met, Patty and I, actually, what year? Was it 98, 99, Patty, in Germany?
98. I think 98. I think the end
98. So we have been friends a very long time. Yeah, we met at Hofgut Neuhof in Germany, and I was a kid, and Patty, you were there with exact.
Was not a kid.
Oh, stop it! Can you tell us real quick I was a kid working in Germany, and you just happened to grab a hold of me and said, we're going to be friends, and we've been friends since then, thankfully. But tell everybody real quick about Exact, because then I'll intro what we're doing and what we're talking about on our Zoom cocktail trainer version for the evening.
Okay. So when Reese and I met, I had this amazing, amazing, amazing horse called Exact, who I had bought as a in January. So he was technically 3, but he was actually barely 2. And he was, 15 2 hands. He cost, I forget, $8,000, give or take. And he was ugly as sin and had a giant head and big feet and was a pinto and had a blue eye and blah, blah, blah. And he ended up as a 17 2 hand horse. We trained him all the way up to Grand Prix. He competed around the world at CDIs at the Grand Prix level with me, carrying me around for 10 solid years, from the time he was 8 until he was 18. His last horse show was the CDI in Berlin in 2003, December 2003. And then he retired and lived a nice long life. He no longer is among us, but he was amazing, amazing, amazing. Very generous as a riding horse, very difficult.
Yeah.
And and I broke him to ride. I trained him up through Grand Prix by having people like Hilda Gurney and Conrad Schumacher essentially scream aids at me fast enough so I could do them. and I just kind of was like, oh, do that. Okay, fine. And it worked.
I love it. I love it. So,
Nice.
So we were chatting today and we were talking about what we wanted to talk about, and we decided on a series because we all have a little extra time. We never get a hold of you for the radio show because you're in California and it's complicated and you're really busy. Yeah. So it's kind of, in a weird way, nice to get a hold of you. A silver lining for sure. But we were talking, Lisa, who's a wonderful listener to the show, shout out to Lisa, had talked about doing a series about, riders getting their medals and challenges that trainers have sort of at each level with horses that we've trained. So sort of kind of what are the biggest challenges that we have found with the horses we've trained collectively at each level? So today we're going to tackle training in first level. We can get you back next week. So we're going to have you back on and do a little bit of a series with this whole kind of this idea of going toward the medals, or in our case, or anyone's case, going toward Grand Prix or the FEI levels. So let's start with training level, because arguably that is probably the most important or one of the most important on a lot of levels. So let's talk about the biggest challenges you've had training horses at training and first level.
Okay. So because we're going to talk about this in reference to some horses who we've actually trained. I thought I'd talk about 2 horses in particular who were just super difficult at training level. One was Exact, and the other was my little Bob, both of whom ended up as Grand Prix horses. So, yay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But both of them, super spicy. Little Bob, very little. Exact, very big. And I am, just for those who don't know me, I'm 5'4", and for most of my time competing internationally at dressage, I was an executive at a movie studio and a lawyer at a big law firm, partner at a big law firm. And so I was, riding super early in the morning before work and then going to work all day. So this was not a professional kind of thing for me until more recently. So until like the last 10 years. So, this is something I did, before my real job. So Exact was kind of famously a spook. And I mean, really kind of a giant, powerful horse, super out of control, not mean, just super out of control. So my biggest challenge with him, and interestingly with most horses, is actually just getting into and around the arena in an easy way that makes them happy and confident. Those white letters and those white rails and the person in that booth at the end of the arena are pretty startling for a young horse, especially if you do what I typically do, which is essentially train in a private facility. I mean, I have my horses at home or I keep them in a friend's backyard. And I will tell you that the biggest thing I learned for baby horses is to make sure they get experience and confidence. And if that means taking them, the first time I took Exact to a show at the LA Equestrian Center, we had to tranquilize him and take him home. He had panicked so bad because there was just too much information going on. And so for years, and I mean years and years and years, way after training level, all the way through Grand Prix, in fact, until his dying day, I went to horse shows early. We hand walked around for hours. We had friends of his stand near the arena. He walked back and forth in front of the judges' stand. If there was something unusual in the arena, flags at the end of the arena, banners, he walked back and forth in front of them. We gave him carrots. I showed them to him from any angle. And to me, a reminder, horses get confidence from you, but you can't challenge them so much that they feel like they don't have an out, right? So if a horse is scared of that letter a little bit, ride a little off the rail and just a little bit inside leg to outside rein towards something, so that you never challenge them with two eyes. You never have a death grip on their mouth and a death grip around their sides. There is no easier way to teach a horse to stand up than that, or to teach a horse to really get spooky. So for me, training level is, yes, about them being ridden in rhythm and about them being supple and about them accepting some contact. But also it's about giving a horse confidence to get into a trailer, to get to a horse show, to drink from a bucket. All of those things are things that we can teach horses, even if there aren't shows going on, right? We can put a horse in a trailer, drive it around the block, and ride it at the next door neighbor's arena. And all of those things are incredibly, incredibly useful. With Exact, we had him, he was on and off of a horse trailer essentially every 2 to 3 weeks for the first many years of his life. Not because he needed to go to horse shows to, for points or anything, but because he just needed to understand it was all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And if that meant buckets and buckets of carrots and lots of pats, that's what it meant. But we did the work so that, by we, I mean me and a friend of mine called Jim Higdon, who was a saint and who would literally just walk him around for hours and for 4 hours of show, to just walk him around. And so to me, that's incredibly important. I'm just going to also say that for every rider, for every horse, dressage is progressive training, right? We are trying to, in a happy, fun, non-confrontational, easy way, make sure every rider can become a Grand Prix rider and every horse can become a Grand Prix horse. I don't care if it's a Shetland pony or a quarter horse or the fanciest warm blood on the planet. And I don't care whether the rider has 2 arms and 2 legs or doesn't. None of this is impossible. I am for sure not a physical specimen, right? But if you always are looking to the next thing, you can achieve the next thing in a happy and easy way. So to me, the first thing is confident horse at home and away. Then
that's really good. I was just going to say, an important thing that you hit on there was, a support system, a friend, your trainer, somebody you can sort of rely on to bounce ideas off of, or, in my past, I've ridden a lot of horses at training level or at young horse classes. I try to a little bit get out of my head, and when I'm having a problem, you can certainly overanalyze it, but I think you need to have somebody say, what do you think is good? What do you see here? Because when you're on top of the horse and things are happening with young horses, especially, they happen very fast, and it's good to have somebody say, what do you see? What do you see? Because what you feel is for sure can be a totally different thing, or using a video. Yeah. Now we have lots of great technology. You can just pick up, your friend can pick up a phone and say, here, look at this. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even feel that. And the person on the ground can say, that horse was leaning into your right leg the entire time, and all you were doing was kicking with the left leg. And you're like, oh crap, I caused that problem.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I have that happen so much, Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't need to necessarily have experienced eyes on the ground, because you can video, right? Yeah. And you can say to your friend who has never seen a horse before, hey, watch me from the back. Tell me if I'm sitting straight in the saddle. Tell me if both my seat bones are evenly over the horse. Like the horse had a middle, I should be sitting over that middle. Watch me, take photographs.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, if you have a friend that's never seen a horse, give him a little direction. I got a great video from my husband once of my head. He just took my head. So I was like, really, the horse is the more important thing. So maybe just a little direction on exactly what you want, and then they'll do it. I'm just saying. I just had to throw that in there
for the husbands. Yeah, for the husbands.
That I mean, my head would look great the entire time.
Can I give you one other thing, which is for me, and I give myself out loud riding lessons all the time because I ride alone a lot, and I teach other people. So my view is I might as well teach myself. Sadly, I have to do that by talking aloud. But, okay, there's no one around to think that I'm nuts because no one's here to watch. And for me, that helps a lot because it helps me analyze. So I'm not just reacting, I'm analyzing and reacting.
Yeah.
And that's super helpful. And I have to say, going back to videos, this afternoon, in fact, this morning, I got videoed on a young horse for about 10 minutes, and I got videoed on my Grand Prix horse for about 7 minutes this afternoon. Just before I got on the line with you, those videos went to Christine Traurig to see if she can give me a few hints, because we can't clinic together. I can't clinic with her right now. And, my gosh, that's going to be the best thing I've done in a month. So I totally agree.
And it doesn't take 7 minutes is perfect. And, the other thing I was going to say about training level is a lot about riding the figures correctly, right? And sometimes if it's your first time at a horse show or the horse is spooking and you can't get to the other end of the arena, like that's a challenge. But really rhythm and riding the pattern is, if you can do that, you're doing a great job, especially at training level.
If you can do that, you've got at least a 65% and probably higher, as long if you just ride the pattern. But let's actually go back to, my God, the training scale for the moment, right? Every part, like rhythm, suppleness, contact, impulsion, straightness, all those things are in training level. All of those things are from the day. I mean, I start my own horses because I'm 61, and why wouldn't you? And from the day I get on them, I'm thinking of all those things. Now, I'm not thinking of them in a like Grand Prix way, but like my baby stallion the other day lost forward momentum. So he lost both rhythm and impulsion. But why did he lose it? Because his shoulder popped out to the right while I was tracking left. Now, it could be that maybe he was being a little barn sour, or it could just be that he lost alignment. But then he couldn't move forward because I wasn't straight enough.
Right. And that's common. To me, that's common, right? on the left,
totally.
People pull left rein or, however, typically the horse is hollow left, so they will fall right. That's pretty common and especially in training level. So you have to really watch that.
Yeah. And so to me, if you're always kind of, I'm about to say self-analyzing, but I'm not saying beat yourself up. I'm meaning have a rational discussion with yourself. So why can't I turn left? Oh, well, wait, his shoulder is like out in, East Jesus to the right. And so I need to line those things up. And then I will, if a horse, and again, I start baby horses because I'm an idiot. So I actually go back to, if I need to, I'll go back to the round pen and I'll do what I did as a kid. I'll basically teach them just to turn off the leg and the hip without thinking about the rein. So I will take things back, work them in component parts, and then go back into the big arena and go, okay, now that we've remembered that when I squeeze with my right leg, you should actually move left, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
So I always think it's a good point. Yeah, to like just go back for a bit. To me, it's also, and again, there is no one I teach. And I teach, mainly professional riders, but not exclusively. I've got, 2 kid riders, one of whom is a very talented rider, one of whom is a lovely person, but she has very severe mental illness and, can't really use her body in a way that, I'm about to use normal in inverted commas. And because she just can't open herself up that much. And even with her, the goal every day is to improve, right? It's not to improve to, none of us are going to be Laura Graves tomorrow, or in my case, ever. But, Isabel Vert, probably not. I think I'm like past that. But with that said, I should be the better me every single day. My horses should be the better them, in theory, right? Aspirationally, every day. And to me, because I'm always looking to make them, again, from the first day I get on them, I'm thinking, how do I get this horse, in 5, 6, 7, 10 years to Grand Prix? So I always want to, if I can, sit as well as I can. I want, we're teaching Pavlov's dog to drool, right? We are teaching conditioned response. So I always want to try to give, and I'm, again, aspirationally, I'm not perfect at this. I want to give perfect aids. I want to sit perfectly. I want to give perfect aids. And then they're going to figure out how to respond to it. Then I'm going to reward the correct response, right? So even in training, even in first, when I'm doing a transition from walk to trot, or in first level, when I'm doing a transition from a working trot to a little bit of a lengthening, I want my legs to get a little longer. I want my heels to come a little down. I want my legs to come not quite off a little bit, but to be very soft and just hanging there. When I'm coming back from the lengthening, I want to have my knees in a little bit. I want to push my body towards the cantle a little bit, because I want to start using that to teach a half halt, which will become a way to teach half steps, which will become piaffe eventually. And I'm going to be doing that on the horse I sit on for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time. The first time someone's going to lead me around and I'm going to hope for the best. But, after they at least walk, trot, and canter both directions, I want to make sure in my mind that I'm developing the system that will allow the horse to progress, not so that I don't have to then change it. Right. Yeah. I want this to become an easy and fun and simple way for a horse to express itself. I always think about horses as those annoying people in ballet, who were like the ballerinas in high school. They were the dancers in high school. They did modern dance, and they could touch their they could touch their heads on their knees and things. And they did that in the hallway and stretched. And I can't do that at all. And because they use their bodies to express themselves. I think of horses that way. I think of horses as these emotional creatures who love using their bodies to express themselves. And isn't it our job to allow them to do that better and to allow them to do it more joyfully? And so to me, if I'm if I'm trying to be my best rider every day, I'm going to, and establishing those building blocks, then I'm going to go from training to first. And again, and Reese, tell me if you guys disagree, but for me, the kind of classical way of doing it is you're not going to be kicking to go forward. You're going to squeeze. You're going to give them a little bit of a tap or a kick to get them to go forward, and then you're going to give them a pat, and next time you're going to squeeze less. Or even better, you're just going to rotate your heel down and they'll go forward.
Absolutely. Because you can't be, even from the beginning, like you always need the horse in front of your leg. It's so important. Mm-hmm. So Patty, working toward first level, right? So first level, there's some new challenges that come in, some leg yielding, some counter canter. What are some things that you found kind of as your biggest challenge at first level as you're working kind of up the scale?
Okay. So for me, for first level, well, I'm going to do two things. Let's talk about the single loop with the canter. Everyone's nemesis. Yes. Especially, by the way, that is the best movement ever if you have a small horse. Like if you've got a pony or something with short stride, that thing, you are feeling it, you're doing it, right? So I own, at the moment last year I had 4, but now I have 3, thank goodness, young horses. Right, because one went to the neighbor, yay! And one of them, one's just super coordinated. It's my UB40 stallion. He is just lovely, and he can do anything. The next one is 15-2, super powerful, super coordinated, the canter. Then there's Junior. Junior is 17-2, and he's a full Dutch carriage horse. His gaits are ginormous. And he can sit, he can carry, he can get short quick behind. But if his hocks are out behind his tail, I don't even know how to describe how long he can be. But he can also rotate his hip down, and he can also get his hind leg underneath his tail. So to me, that single loop is super important, because if you can do it, you can then start thinking about other things. So you can then start thinking about, how am I going to do a half vault? You can then start thinking about, how am I going to set up for a flying change, right? So for Junior, for whom this is quite challenging, 2 things. One is, as you're practicing for a horse show, that first turn off the track is your tight turn, right? So you want to get to the center line well before X. Don't get to the center line at X and then go, OMG. Now I need to get back to the rail. No.
Yeah.
Turn off the rail. So this is on the correct. So the correct lead part should be your sharp turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you flatten it at the center line. And then you gradually and gracefully do the second part. A reminder, the likelihood of you having 5 judges is essentially 0. So you're going to have the judge at C. They're not going to kill you for getting to the center line a little early. What that's going to allow you to do is to give, again, going back to giving the horse confidence, right? We need horses to get supple, and in this case, the straightness includes balance, right? So we need to give them the ability to achieve. And if we and cutting that first corner and making that first angle quite oblique, so you get to the center line fast, so that you can then, and fast is the wrong, early.
Yeah.
So you can then do an easy straighten and an easy way back, is a way to give a horse confidence. Later, if your horse rocks it, right, challenge them a little bit more. But, to overface a horse is just unfair. I mean, I would never want someone to tell me to run faster than I can run, or to touch. I mean, if someone told me to touch my toes, I'd just giggle at them, right? Because I can get to my knees or maybe a little bit past that. You can't force someone to do something they're not balanced or coordinated enough to do. It's not fair. Right. And so I think if you help the horse achieve the confidence, and then as a rider, it's your job to help the horse balance, right? So think about, wow, where can I help with a little half halt? Well, I can help with a little half halt just before that center line as I'm straightening. The horse needs to rely on me. So I'm going to, in my case, because I come from a hunt seat background, I tend to get a little propped. I'm going to lean back. I mean, not really lean back, but I'm going to think to myself, Patty, put your outside leg back farther than you would normally, because you need to remind them to keep on the lead that you want. If you're on left lead, you want to keep slightly giving a left lead aid, or at least a left lead positioning.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can feel forward a little with the inside hand. You've got them lovely into the new outside rein. And how easy, how nice, what a lovely kind of pleasant way to teach a horse that they can essentially balance on the counter lead. I mean, it's
Patty,
a great
I'm just going to jump
movement.
in here. I'm just going to jump in
Please.
here because I think it's a good thing. What happens a lot with amateur riders is that they probably around this time of the year or even a little bit earlier, they go, okay, well, this year I'm going to do first level. So they say, okay, well, I got to start working on first level stuff. So you read the test and you're like, oh, there's this canter loop, and whether it's canter loop or the leg yield or whatever, they're just like, and then the next day they go out on the horse and they go, I'm gonna just turn the horse to the center line and then turn the horse back and we're just gonna do the canter loop. Whereas thinking riders, professional trainers, and somebody who's gone through the process of training a horse, through to third level or so, says, you know what, I need to break this down into little easy components that the horse can do really well first, before I start challenging, I have to do this movement because the test booklet said I have to do this movement. So for me, the first thing that I do is to say, okay, I'm going to, in 3 months, be able to ride this canter loop. The first thing I need to be able to do is break it into the first component. I'm only going to ride from the wall on the little diagonal line to the center line, and then carry my line all the ways down the center line. And at the end, I'm going to, continue on the same direction. Yep. So if I was riding left, I ride the center line, and then I ride the left. That might take me 2-3 weeks to get that really confident and really good that I can get the horse straight on the center line and carry my line all the way up to the center line. Just exactly what you're saying. Don't overface the horse with the turn and then the loop and then, okay, and then it all falls apart and you say, oh shit, that didn't work. I'll just try again. I'll try again. Really break down as we start going up through the levels and we're talking about different movements, you have to be able to really assess, the strengths of your horse, like you said, and really the components of the movement one step at a time, one partial step. And then, so once I get that sort of confident, then I'm going to ride from the corner to the side, up the side a little bit, and then I'm just going to slightly turn them back towards the wall we came from. And maybe I'm only going to ride back to the quarter line. I'm not going to ride all the way back to the wall because that's kind of hard. And I need to be able to not think about squeezing the shape really tight, but just keeping it long. And then I'm going to go to the corner and then I'm going to continue on. Right. And you'll see, good riders do this. And if you've got a coach that's helping you on the ground, will not say, okay, today we're going to work on the loop and we're just going to do it. Because it's not going to be successful. You're not going to build, just all the stuff that you're talking about, building the confidence of the horse. You just step by step by step, and you take something that should take time, and not expect it just to happen, just like that.
Interesting. I'm going to feedback on two things you said, if I may. One is, don't be dissing amateur riders. Like, I know a lot of amateur riders are better than the pros. Like, a reminder here in the United States, right? You can be a professional rider by just saying you are and taking money. So that doesn't mean you're necessarily good or better than the amateurs. Just saying. Moving on. I totally agree with you about breaking it down. To me, it's so interesting that we think about things as a movement. And I'm going to use walking canter pirouettes as an example because this is what people do worst, but it works at literally the center line. This is, it would be a good example too. But like if you turn to somebody and say, do a pirouette, it's not a thing. It's 8 strides. Each stride ridden potentially differently, prepared potentially differently, a reaction being potentially different, right? If you're trotting down the center line, posting, and want to halt straight, it's not just trot down the center line, pull back, and hope for the best.
Right.
No. It is, it is, and again, this is a series of things that you practice. It is trotting down the center line, staring at the judge. By the way, I'm a big believer of this, staring at the judge with your chin up and your eyes on them, saying to them with every iota of your soul, I'm going to win this class and you're going to give me in the mid-70s. I'm just telling you, with your eyes. And then you are going to do 3 easy little half halts. And if it's if it's training level, you can walk into that halt. And if the horse starts doing what every baby horse except for like some amazing, every baby horse I've ever ridden does, like they're like, oh, wait, my shoulder's going this. Oh, no, that way. Oh, no, wait, this way. And then my haunch, and they're going to try to do the hula. You're going to trot forward a little bit more and try again, or walk forward a little bit more and try again. And you might do, and I try to do quarter lines that I pretend are center lines all the time on my babies. And oh, by the way, I don't halt at X essentially ever. I halt past X or past the X part of the quarter line. And again, going back to the fact that I always think, what is going to be the next issue with Grand Prix, right? They are going to be piaffing at X, not halting.
Right. No, so they need to stay in front of your leg all the time going into the halt.
All the time. They need to think. They can't just be, it's a center line, I halt here, thanks so much. It's got to be on the 8th. So to me, again, going back to transitions, how am I going to be training that so that when we're not halting from the working trot through the walk or halting from the working trot into a halt, where we're going from the canter? How are we going to progress through that? Well, I need something that's going to become my half halt, that's going to become my aid for sitting and getting short, quick behind. And so again, I'm going to think about trotting down the center line, prepare, allow, do.
Right. And I think that also, absolutely. And then, just for the ending thoughts, also that will come into play for what will be the lengthenings in first level. You have the lengthenings in the trot and the lengthenings in the canter, right? These are transitions as well. And then, talking about first level, we can't ignore leg yields. And so first time you're going to see that, I think we all have had challenges, right? With young horses. Sometimes they move well off one leg versus the other leg. Other times, they're like, huh, what are you saying? Right. I'm sorry.
Right. Or they just drop their shoulder and run the heck sideways.
Just going to say that. We've all been there where you're like, oh, yeah, you weren't listening to my L-statement at all. So I think that's definitely part of it, right? So those are some challenges, right? As you're training young horses or even, I find with a lot of my riders, they think they're starting early enough, but they don't really actually start leg yielding until they're like, oh gosh, I'm not going to make it. And then they really put their leg on and dart over instead of really planning from the marker that you're, even maybe a little bit before. So you're actually going sideways when you hit the letter. I think that's been a challenge of mine as you've gone through, again, training in first level. I think with younger horses, sometimes it's just the challenge of the environment. But as you get to kind of the first level test 3, things are starting to get a little bit real, and you need to kind of be ready for that. And at first level, if your horse is still sort of spooking at the judge's booth, maybe you do test 1 or 2, wait for test 3 until you're kind of ready for that. So, I think they're building years, right? As you develop horses, and you get all kinds of.
And again, you get a friend, you hand them a cocktail, and they sit at sea in your arena, and they do things like shuffle papers. I mean, they don't intentionally scare the horse, but you just kind of casually move around and just keep moving, and again, so if you don't have to, so let me talk about this for a second. I actually want to go back to leg yields for a sec, but if your horse is, as Exact was, scared of his shadow, but scared of the judge in the judge's booth, scared of the letters. I did whole tests where I never got past G. In fact, I did whole tests where I never got past X, but that's a bigger problem. And it was like, oh wait, he's never going to get anywhere near you, and he's 17.2, and I am 5'4", so that's just not happening. So instead, we'll just turn here, and eventually we would. And it'd be fine. It's like, you don't need to challenge them in a way that's unfair. You have to challenge them in a way that allows them to gain confidence. Can I just talk about leg yields really briefly? Because I actually want your insight as well. Okay.
Sure.
So going back to my baby stallion, Kai, whose real name is Kialoa, in case anyone ever wants to do anything with him. Anyway, so he's my little UB40 stallion. And he, as I said, likes to pop his right shoulder out. Very common. So guess what? Our leg yields to the right. Yeah. He basically just drops his right shoulder and off he goes. And I've been, I start this very early. I started this horse. I broke him in the end of September, took him to his first Conrad Schumacher clinic in October, just saying. And that was brave. And
that was brave.
So, so he's, from the beginning, I've been like, no, you need to figure out how to move away from my leg, but stay in balance. So what I do, and I typically do this with all the baby horses, is I think 2 steps forward, 1 step sideways, 2 steps forward, 1 step sideways. And in my brain, I think crossing hind leg. So instead of thinking they should go when I think go sideways, I try to, and again, it's not like this is the way you would correctly actually do it, but my internal vision is I want to keep them very straight, certainly no bend. And at the beginning, not even a flexion really. I just want them to cross their hind leg to go sideways 1 step, and then I go forward 2 steps. Because so many of them have a tendency to throw that shoulder out, and then they're out of balance, and then they can't succeed for you.
Right. And I think that's exactly, it's a great exercise that gets you moving sideways. I think so a lot of people just struggle with going sideways quick enough. Or they wait too long. So I love it. I love it. Well, Patty, we would love this. See, everyone wants to know what we would actually be doing in Vegas. We'd probably be sitting around the table with some drinks and talking about horses. Just saying.
And gossiping about family and,
all the things. Yeah, no, exactly. I love it. I love it. Well, Patty, if our listeners have any questions on their biggest challenge, you're going to come back again. We're going to tackle the next second and third level next week. How can they find you online?
Okay, so I have an email, which is, and I'll say it and then spell it. It's bailiwickhouse@gmail.com. B for boy, AILIWICKHOUSE@gmail.com. Or I'm on Facebook.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, as always, Phil, we love email and Facebook shout outs. Go to our Facebook page, send us emails. Seriously, guys, we love it. We're trying to create a nice community for everyone to hang out and land. And we really enjoy all the emails and it's keeping us going for sure. Isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've gotten a couple and they've been really uplifting and, we all need reasons to smile in these times. So that's really helpful for us. And we thank the people who have sent the emails and the messages already.
Absolutely. And as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way you can get in touch with me is through Facebook or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
And as always, everybody, keep your heels down, your shoulders back, your chins up this week. And we hope you stay well and your families well as well. We look forward to next week.